The first one is Matteo Jorgensen. Matteo Jorgensen, big guy, obviously he's a co-leader, but he has a lot of work to do for Jonas also when it matters. Mm-hmm. If you look at Matteo's Strava file, he burned 3,653 calories. Then I went to and I found Remco's Strava file. Small guy, aerodynamic guy, protected. So, he's the leader of the team. He has always guys around him. Remco burned 2,807 calories. It's 800 calories less than Matteo Jorgensen. And then, to my surprise, I find the Strava file of Tadej Pogacar, 1,630 calories. I mean, that's 1,200 calories less than Remco.
Yeah.
This is how good Pogacar is, how easy he is in the bunch.
How efficient he is.
Yeah.
Welcome to JB Squared. This is our part of the Move and We Do and everything Tour de France, especially in July. Welcome to the show. I'm JB Hager, but more importantly, joined by Johan Bruneel, who made a cameo on NBC today in the U.S. on the 4th of July.
Did I? I didn't see that, JB. I can't see NBC here in Europe. But what was it about?
They were showing prominent people in cycling who doubted Cavendish.
Well, I was one of them, for sure. I was one of them. So, yeah.
You owned up to it, but they showed a clip of you, which I was, right when I woke up this morning, I was like, hey, Johan, how you doing? It was great. We're going to get into today's sprint stage in a second, but real quick, thank you to Ketone IQ for sponsoring JB Squared for this entire tour. Get a subscription to Ketone IQ, and trust me, after 3-6 months, even sooner, I think a lot of people notice stuff sooner, but I always recommend getting a subscription, trying it for a while. You'll feel better physically and mentally. I'm pretty sure of it. It worked for me. So let's jump right into it. Another sprint stage, a lot of eyeballs, a lot on Cavendish all day, of course, because that's just such a big storyline. And I was funny, Johan, I was thinking about that because the value of TV time for a sponsor, right? That's a big deal. That's why you see TV attacks, as we call it, from people who don't even really have a chance with the stage, but they need to get their sponsors on television. Astana is crushing it with TV time.
Too bad they don't sell anything. they don't sell any product. So, but yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, and rightfully so. I think that Cavendish made history yesterday and deserved to be talked about during the stage. I mean, if you think back again, we talked about it yesterday already in the show quite a bit, but it's really amazing what he did. If you see after everything he went through, I mean, so happy for him. I was one of the doubters. Yeah, I was one of the doubters, but I'm extremely happy that I was proven wrong.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. When I said he was going to win a stage, I was speaking from the heart. Not because just watching all the sprinting, like all the sprinting we watched at the Giro. I was just like, man, these young guys are on a completely different level. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, we're not going to talk so much about Cavendish today. There's a lot. Stick around till the end because, what I love about working with you, Johan, is you dig up other bits of information. I can see why you were such a great director. And towards the end of this, you found some data just by poking around online that lifts the lid on Pogacar and how a bit of an advantage he has. He's riding smarter than we've ever seen, I think. And you'll explain that with some real data. So I look forward to that. Now, I said we're not going to talk about Cavendish anymore. We did see him get in a little bit of trouble because he had a mechanical, had to chase back on. That doesn't really help you sprint. For a lot of people on sprint stages don't catch the buildup of how everything unfolded. So why don't we go back to a little bit what they may not have seen starting at like 80K out.
Yeah, well, I mean, today the difference with any other sprint stage was that, and everybody has all the technology, all the apps, all the weather predictions. The whole stage, they predicted crosswind, the whole stage. And although the crosswinds were probably not strong enough or not enough from the right direction to cause splits in the peloton, it generates a tremendous amount of stress because it can happen after every corner. And we could see in several instances that the peloton they were not chasing anybody, but all of a sudden you had these 3-4 teams come to the front. They sprinted like a lead out to the next corner because maybe the wind could be a tiny bit different than it was on the moment they were there. And so it's a constant sprint to corners and to roundabouts. And it was a super stressful stage today. Even if it was almost sure that nothing would happen, but you always have to be in the front. And at some point we could see, I think it was with about 75, 80K to go, there was a split in the peloton. Purely because of the nervousness, not because a team started to chase or starting to put a tempo, but purely because of the nervousness. There was crosswind. There were some echelons, or the beginning of echelons. And what did we see? That all the big favorites were in the front, but Tadej Pogacar was on his own. There was no teammates around him. And there was about 60 riders in front. So that's obviously something that is not good. It may very well be that it's extremely easy to get disorganized as a team because the cruise speed is 50K an hour. They go 55, 57. All of a sudden, there's one little break. People go different directions and you lose your teammates, right? And so you could also clearly hear on the radio, on the race radio of Team UAE, that the team directors were not happy. That they said, "Hey guys, this is not possible. This cannot happen. 60 guys alone, and Tadej is there by himself." After that, they got organized better. But today I had the impression that if we're talking about the two big powerhouses of teams in the Tour, UAE and Visma, Visma was a lot more organized. They were always there when they had to be. Vingegaard was always protected. Pogacar, I don't know, maybe it's also because of the style of riding, because I can clearly see that Jonas is always relying on his team. He always stays with the team. Tadej is extremely good bike handler, which could be an advantage or sometimes a disadvantage, because sometimes he goes through places where his teammates don't dare to go. And it's not always easy to stay around a guy like that. So anyways, at the end, nothing happened. But I can tell you, this stage of today took a lot of energy, not so much because of the speed or because of the toughness of the race, but because of the stress and the constant having to be in the front and being pushed by the team. Always be in the front, guys. Be in the front, guys. You never know, and and there's 20 teams that do the same. So
everyone's getting the same orders. Go to the front.
Yeah. I mean, they all have the same map. They all have the same weather apps. They all have the same people up front to say, "Hey, at this kilometer, it's a bit more crosswind." So it automatically the race. It's like a snowball. It goes faster and faster and faster, and at the end, it was hard. I mean. These stages are not easy stages.
So are you continuing to see, like you brought it up the other day when we talked about Ayuso? There's something off maybe with UAE a little bit?
Today obviously we couldn't see anything. I did, however, see an interview of Ayuso on I think it was on Spanish TV, where they asked him, "Hey, what's up with this, disagreement or unhappiness?" And Ayuso was completely unfazed. He's a young rider, but the guy just, he's a leader. He's a leader, knows exactly what to say, and he said, we're not going to go into detail what happened, but I'm not happy with the gesture of Almeida. Whatever needs to be said can be said on the radio instead of making gestures. So
that's a good point.
It's true. It's true. But also, I mean, you have to imagine if you're Almeida and you're going up the Galibier and it's headwind and you're there and you're pulling and you're on the limit. I mean, and you look behind. I mean, it's the frustration. You're on the limit. I mean, you're everything's cooking, right? And so it's understandable. It's understandable. It's not nice, but it's understandable. I mean, I think in the first place, Ayuso was not where he had to be. I remain of the opinion that he was trying to save a little bit to do the job when he had to, but especially making sure that he didn't get dropped. It's something. I mean, this debate has been. I've seen it on social media. I have some kind of information that I'm not going to go into detail to not reveal my sources, but I'm speaking to some people in the tour, and Pogacar was very unhappy on the Galibier with the attitude of Ayuso.
Okay.
So,
well, I was saying it yesterday to people. I'm like, Ayuso should send Cavendish a thank you note for getting all the headlines off of him. It distracted everybody. Hey, while we're talking and comparing Visma and UAE, one of the things I like that's going on is how Visma has really moved into an underdog position. I mean, we've seen how strong Pogacar is, especially coming off the Giro. We didn't know much about Jonas. He surprised us all, and he's got this quiet confidence that's frightening.
Yeah, it is, and it looks like he's on a good path to kind of grow during the tour and get better a little bit. I mean, we'll see tomorrow. Tomorrow there's no hiding. There's no, the race of truth, the time trial, right? So, I mean, underdog, yes, but whenever it matters, as a team, they're there where they have to be strategically. I mean, when it comes to power and condition and form, I would say I was a little bit disappointed with Visma, especially on the stage of the Galibier. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because it's Jonas versus Tadej when it's really, really hard. So they're doing. I mean, I think they're doing a good job. They're biding their time. They're patient, and it's also the only thing they can do. I mean, they have no other choice. It's clear that Jonas has come in. I would say it's not the Jonas of 100% that we saw last year and 2 years and 2 years ago. He's probably 95, 96%. And so the question is now, okay, will he be able to get up to 98, 99%, or will the contrary happen? Could also be that he's so much going over the limit that he actually decreases his form. I expect to be the first one, but we'll see. It's I personally think that we haven't seen the best Pogacar yet in this Tour de France, so we'll see. But for the moment, I think Visma is doing a good job. They have one leader. That's also one of the things that if you look today, for example, Visma super organized, UAE a little bit less. It's also a consequence of having. Okay, they obviously have one leader, one clear leader, which is Pogacar, but you have two guys there. Adam Yates, absolutely not, but Almeida and Ayuso, they're there. But for the moment, they're having their personal ambitions. And maybe that's also an instruction from the team that they say, okay, hey guys, we want to keep these guys up front just in case something gets out of control in the second week, and we need a spare card to play whenever there's a big group that goes away. But it's a lot more difficult to organize on these flat stages to stay. Visma is around one guy, everybody, and UAE, Almeida and Ayuso for sure are not going to be like flies on Pogacar. They're like flying around, right? But then, of course, I mean, they still have guys. They have Polit, they have Soler, they have Sivakov, they have Tim Wellens. I mean, those four guys should be enough, right, to keep Tadej out of problems. But it also makes them more tired.
We're going to get into the Philipsen issue from today, but a couple other people when you talk about the winner. But also, I was really surprised that Mads Pedersen lined up today.
Yeah.
After that.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday I heard from the team that he was really banged up. Usually, if you're hurting in the evening, in the morning, it's still a different game. I mean, it's worse. He started. I think I've seen that he had some trouble at sometimes. I don't know if it was a mechanical or if he was struggling, but he did the intermediate sprint, and he tried to sprint in the end also. He didn't get a good placing, but he was up there. So and then I saw his interview after the finish and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm here. I know what I'm here for, and I just need to keep going." So that was, nice to see that he was at least in the race and trying to, he's tomorrow's probably going to be a worse day for him still, but it's a time trial tomorrow, so that's not that important. And then after that, he has a few more days to recover. But yeah, I mean, to speak about the sprint today, JB, I mean, Groenewegen, it's been a while. I think it's 2 years ago already since he won for the last time in the Tour. Not last year, not the year before. But I mean, he is one of the top sprinters in the world. And when everything is right, I mean, and let's not forget, he did say after stage one, after the first sprint stage, he said, "Yeah, it's always frustrating when the fastest guy in the race doesn't win." He said that himself. And today he wins. It was close with Philipsen, but he won. I mean, yeah, very, very deserved win. There was absolutely nobody who could say anything of the sprint of Groenewegen, and for him to win also in the national jersey, he was super, super happy. Yeah, and then the glasses. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the glasses.
What is with those? What's the story?
I don't know what it is. If it's a market, I mean, it's like an arrow. It's like a pointy nose piece. I've seen it.
It looks like a stage costume. If you're playing a crow.
I mean, some people have called it the Batman. The Batman.
It is kind of, yeah. It looks like Batman's nose. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there was at some point some discussion if the UCI would ban the glasses. One of those things, like, it's an added fairing that you add for aerodynamic advantage. Obviously, it's not banned because he's wearing it, but whether it's faster or not, I mean, as long as he believes it's faster, hey, whatever,
Hey, and you don't have to put sunscreen on your nose.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, nice sprint and nice win for him. And very nice also for the team, for Jaiko Alula. They've been trying to win a stage with Groenewegen for a while, and they kept believing in him. They chose him for the Tour over Caleb Ewan. And I mean, he delivers. So hats off to them, nice job.
And if you didn't hear the move, go listen to it or watch if you watch on YouTube, because Matt White called in, who's their director. And I can listen to that guy talk all day. He's great.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
Okay. So the other big story with the sprint, and again, stick around when Johan shares some interesting data that relates to Pogacar. So we saw a clip of Philipsen slamming on his handlebars and cussing after the sprint. We didn't know if that took place after he lost the sprint or after he found out he was relegated. Doesn't matter.
It was when he lost the sprint.
Okay, he's very upset, which I understand. Like, he's a fast man. He's the best sprinter. He dominated last year, and you've got Van der Poel leading you out. When Van der Poel is on the line doing a lead out for you, you want to deliver.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm sure he feels that pressure. It was photo finish, it was really, really close. So, I mean, it's a matter of just one split second, it's just starting a bit earlier. And so, and also they were on both opposite sides of the road. So it was basically a drag race between Groenewegen and Philipsen, and Groenewegen came out on top. So he was super, super frustrated. And I understand that. I mean, these sprinters are killers. They once they see the line, they just go there and they want to win. And then finding out that you lost with
such a little margin. But then afterwards, already, I think it was like 10, 15 minutes after the finish, he got relegated. He got relegated, disqualified for changing the trajectory and bothering Wout van Aert. And I have these 4 pictures here that we can look into detail. So if you look on the first picture, you see it's Mathieu van der Poel, the red circle. Then just behind him, it's Philipsen, who we cannot see, and then the third red circle is Wout van Aert. So that's the start of the sprint. Then Van der Poel goes a little bit on the side, and Philipsen comes out. On the third picture, you see they're next to each other, and then the last picture, you can see that Philipsen closes a bit Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert was not going to pass Philipsen. There's no way. He got relegated. Okay, you could say in theory, okay, he did change his trajectory a little bit. Personally, I don't see a valid reason to relegate or to disqualify Jasper Philipsen here. There's not that much change in trajectory. It happens all the time. I mean, you have to have been in there to know what crazy things happen. And so I don't understand the disqualification today, especially if you know that other things happen that are like incredibly worse. And that's why I would like to pass to the next picture.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the picture from yesterday's sprint. So if you look at yesterday's sprint, we have the yellow circles. So first picture, we see Mark Cavendish and Jasper Philipsen, the 2 yellow circles, completely on the right side of the road. And then you see clearly that Cavendish goes to the left. He has a clear road, but that should not, in theory, change the rule. I mean, the rule states that if you deviate a certain amount from your line, you get disqualified, right? So you see that Cavendish goes to the left, and Philipsen follows him. He has Gaviria and this EF guy next to him, so he follows him. Then you see on the next picture, Philipsen is already on the middle of the road, and Cavendish is completely on the left. And the last picture, both of them are completely on the left. So with all the hype that's have gone on with Cavendish victory and how nice it is, but if the UCI follows their own rules, both of those riders need to be disqualified. There's not even a discussion.
Yeah, you've said this before. It's they just need to be consistent. It's never consistent. It needs to
be consistent, and and then to kind of hide their or like how would I say, like camouflage their action of not disqualifying them. Then they said this morning the UCI commissaires went to have a talk with both of those riders and say, hey, what happened yesterday is not acceptable. Next time you get disqualified.
So you think the relegation was specifically about those 2 riders? Does that make sense?
I don't know. I mean, today, the relegation, the disqualification of Philipsen is not a valid disqualification. There's no way.
We replayed it sitting in the studio. Lance is watching it and George is watching it with me. We replayed it, and our reaction: we watched it, the sprint, watched him move over, and we all went, "Meh." Like that was our reaction. Not that bad.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, UCI commissaires need to be consistent. Let
me ask you this too, Johan. When I looked at it, yes, he did move over, and then Wout van Aert has a touch of the brakes and gives up the sprint. Yeah. Happens all the time. But Philipsen's handlebars were well ahead. Does that matter? That matters, right?
Well, it does. It does matter. It does matter. Sometimes you say, I mean, in cycling vocabulary, you said you professionally close the door, mm-hmm. right? Like you kind of leave a little bit of space, but just not enough that they can't pass. I think Philipsen has against him that there's been a few incidents already that he did certain movements that were probably worthy of a DQ. But today was not one of those, well, in my opinion. And again, I come back. What happened yesterday was a lot worse, like a lot worse. In my opinion, the fact if you're disqualified or not for changing your line in a sprint should not be dependent on whether there's consequences or damage to the other riders or not. I mean, it should not matter if a rider changes his line and another guy crashes, for example, or if a guy changes his line and nothing happens. That should not matter. I mean, if you look at Cav's movement from the completely right to the other side, I mean, he didn't know there was nobody there. Mm-hmm. He did not know. I mean, if you look at all the pictures, you see. I mean, they're all moving. They're all moving to the left, and that's obviously because of the wave that these two riders are creating. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I mean, listen. It has happened and it will happen again, but there needs to be some logic to it, and there's not.
Well, it's easy to think there's not that much at stake. You can go, Philipsen didn't win the stage anyway, but he's in contention for the green jersey, which he won last year, and that's a big blow. Yeah,
and then also, I mean, what I think is that the commissaires also, they sometimes they're not good. They're not good at interpreting certain situations. But I think yesterday they interpreted the situation a bit too much, because imagine, JB, imagine the following. Cavendish wins this stage. Nobody crashed, nobody complained, but he went from the total right to the total left of the. Imagine they disqualify him. I mean, I don't know. This commissaire has to go home. The guy who does that.
I can't remember if you brought this up. I certainly didn't come up with it. But it was maybe like something like football, like where you have a yellow card system and then a red card.
Well, they're going to do that now. Next from the 1st of August on, they're starting to do. They're going to.
That really makes sense. Cavendish would have got a warning yesterday. Something like that. And then if they do it again, it's a red card. It's a little more serious.
Yeah, they're going to start doing that from the 1st of August.
I think so.
I would assume that. I mean, they just decided. I would assume that they still have to educate the officials on how the system will work.
You came up with another system too. I think this was last year. You said let's paint lines down the road, and if you cross two of them, then that's a relegation.
Yeah,
another good plan.
I mean, for that matter, you always have to have a straight line of at least 400 meters. Which is sometimes not the case, because sometimes there's a light bend, like a gentle bend in the road, even though it looks straight. So, and if it's a gentle bend, well, the rider is going to go straight, right?
Yeah.
So he will automatically. But if you pass two lines, you're out. I mean, I think that's simple.
But I will also say this: watching Cavendish weave through that the way he does is magic.
It is. I thought about it again. And looking at the sprint and everything that happened before, it was as if Cavendish's bike was on rails and he was just on the rail, like nothing happened, going through it, and then just finally, boom, to the finish.
It's funny. I said at the beginning, we're not going to talk about Cavendish much today.
Oh, here we are.
I know. Okay. Let's talk about tomorrow in the much anticipated time trial. Yeah. Only 25K, which is unfortunate. And do stick around, because we are going to talk about some stuff that Johan has uncovered about Pogacar. That's very interesting. Tomorrow, I'm sure we expect the top three favorites: Remco, Pogacar, Vingegaard. Before I get your thoughts on it. And Roglic, sorry. Yeah. And before I get your thoughts on them, are there any outside time trial specialists that contend them?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very specific time trial, 25K, so ideal for a pure specialist. Not too hard. It's I think there's only 300 meters of elevation over the 25K, so there's a climb in there, but it's not going to be too hard. I don't have the precise details of the course, but I think it's very well suited for specialists. The only two riders that I can see personally, who will go for it for a good result, and that's probably also one of their main objectives of this Tour de France, is Stefan Kung, Swiss rider from Groupama FDG. And I don't know if he's European champion this year or not. I don't remember now. And then another Swiss rider, Stefan Bissiger, also ex-European champion time trial from EF. Those two riders are pure specialists, and they will, of course, have made this a big goal. Although I don't think that they can beat. For the big favorite is Remco Evenepoel. He's the world champion. It's his specialty. It's an ideal course for him. He won the time trial in Dauphiné, not being in 100% shape. So one would expect that he's the big favorite, right?
Plus Pogacar and Vingegaard have done really well with time trials that have some climbing.
Yeah,
and this is flat. This is mostly flat.
Yeah, but Pogacar did also really well in the relatively flat time trial in the Giro, where he almost beat Filippo Ganna. Mm-hmm. But so I personally think it's Remco's the favorite. Pogacar is going to be a very, very close rival, if not the co-favorite. I would say Remco is a bit more of a time trial specialist, but Pogacar is super close, especially with the condition he's in now. And then this is not an ideal time trial for Jonas. It's not the same as the time trial last year in Salange. But he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. I don't think that. I think Pogacar will take time on Jonas tomorrow. I expect up to 45 seconds that Pogacar could gain on Jonas tomorrow, and I think that would be a good situation for him. I think Jonas would be happy with that.
Yeah, they're managing week one basically. Yeah. And then,
also another thing that I read, I don't know if it's true or not, I suspect it's true, is that because of all the basically Jonas did a time trial of 6 weeks to get ready for the Tour. And so they didn't have, logistically, they have not had the time to recon the time trial with him. It's not necessarily a huge disadvantage. There's so much information out there for sure. The coaches have done it with the car, and
can they go? Can Jonas go in a car in the morning? And
he will. Yeah. Tomorrow morning, he will go and do part of it, if not the whole thing. It's only 25K. It's you can do an easy 25-kilometer ride in the morning, a spin, and see the course. So I don't think it's a huge disadvantage. But what I do know for sure is that Pogacar has done this time trial several times. And so he has been speaking about little tweaks they did to the time trial bike since the Giro. I think I talked about the fact that I got information that they made his time trial bike 750 grams lighter. Mm-hmm. It's not so much. It's always an advantage to have a light bike. It's to a lesser degree tomorrow because it's more speed. It's going to be more of an advantage on the last time trial because it's more uphill, but still going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who see who will win the time trial, and then what happens between the two big favorites. And also, I think for a guy like Remco Evenepoel, huge opportunity to solidify his current podium position. I think he will remain in second. If he would have a great day and Pogacar doesn't have a great day, he could potentially take yellow. I don't think it will happen. No, probably not. Most likely not. But it's a great opportunity to take time on Ayuso, on Carlos Rodriguez, and on all the others that are there fighting for that podium or that top five.
Okay, now we're going to talk about what you've uncovered that can shed a light on how Pogacar is managing himself quite well compared to how the work that others have to do. Tell everybody how you uncovered this, and we're going to.
I went on Strava. Somebody told me. I have this person who seems to have information about Pogacar, whether it's firsthand or indirectly. But he said, look how economic Pogacar is, and so he sent me a few pictures of Strava, and I went myself on Strava, and I looked, for example, at yesterday's stage. Yesterday's stage was 170 something, the stage that Cavendish wins. So, a normal stage. And I selected 3 riders that are on Strava, and then actually published their rides on Strava. I can't find Vingegaard because he doesn't post anything on Strava. Mm-hmm. But for example, if you look at the first one is Matteo Jorgensen. Matteo Jorgensen, big guy, obviously he's a co-leader, but he has a lot of work to do for Jonas also when it matters. Mm-hmm. If you look at Matteo's Strava file here on this picture, you see it's roughly 4 hours 15 with about 1,000 meters elevation, and he burned 3,653 calories. That's quite a lot for a flat stage, but also he's a big guy, and as I said, I think he takes a lot of wind sometimes. We've seen him a lot of times moving up with Jonas. So 3,650 calories for Matteo Jorgensen in yesterday's stage. Then I went to and I found Remco's Strava file. Again, 4 hours, 8 minutes. It all depends when they start and when they stop their device, right? Small guy, aerodynamic guy, protected. So, he's the leader of the team. He has always guys around him. He does not catch a lot of wind in yesterday's stage. Remco burned 2,807 calories in yesterday's stage, which is significantly less. It's 800 calories less than Matteo Jorgensen. Mm-hmm. So the difference between a guy who does some work and a guy who's completely protected, plus is extremely aerodynamic. And then, to my surprise, I find the Strava file of Tadej Pogacar, 4 hours, 8 minutes, so same time as Remco, 1,630 calories. That's 1,200 calories less than Remco.
Yeah.
This is how good Pogacar is, how easy he is in the bunch, and how little energy he spends.
How efficient he is.
Yeah. And so, I've seen these theories of, some guys, and it has worked in the past, right? That Visma, Jumbo in the past, they had this strategy of, we need to make the race hard, and we need to put the whole peloton under pressure, and we need to have a mountain stage with, there's some YouTubers there that think that they have the magic formula. And they're always talking about, it needs to be high kilojoules. Mm-hmm. It may have been the case in the past, but let me tell you guys, this is not going to work this year with this Pogacar. This guy is in shape as never before, and to be so economic in these stages compared to, this is 1,630 calories compared to 3,600. Matteo Jorgensen used 2,000 calories more.
But it's 1,600 calories is nothing. Like an average person can burn that in a day just walking around.
Yeah.
And here he is racing in the Tour de France for 4 hours plus. And that just shows how efficient he is.
Yeah, and I think also it's visible. It's visible if you see him after the race. He is fresh. Straight away, he's recovered. You can't see he raced.
I said that when he was walking to the tent to get him to cool down. I go, he looks like he's just starting.
Yeah. So, listen, this is now, okay? This is now. Who knows what's going to happen within a week? He does have already the Giro in his legs, but for the moment, I think we have not seen anything of Tadej Pogacar's pure potential in this Tour de France yet. He rides on reserve right now.
Wow. All right. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Let's do a Ventum trivia. We're going to give away a brand new NS1, unless you had anything else you wanted to add. I think we covered everything. Every day you can enter. Every day is a chance. And at the end of the tour, we give away a brand new NS1 Ventum road bike. Yesterday's question, just for fun, was what sport did Primož Roglič do before his cycling career? That, of course, was ski jumping.
Wow.
And like
crazy. I mean, I know there's some videos on the internet that are like, this is unbelievable.
He stops. Yeah.
The reason why Primož is a cyclist is because of his accident.
Yeah.
And started cycling as a rehab for his recovery from a ski accident.
That's happened to a lot of skiers, how they found cycling.
Yeah.
You know, these people from the mountains, they naturally become skiers and then they get injured and they pick up the bike. I started cycling again, JB. I had retired as a cyclist when I was 34 and I didn't cycle for 15 years. And I had a bad ski accident, a really bad ski accident. You know, a lot of people don't know that story.
Really messed up my leg. You know, I'm lucky to have my leg today after this injury. And I got back on the bike thanks to the rehab of my ski accident.
Yeah. And everyone can tell, I've seen the comments. You've been riding more this year. And
I've been riding. Yeah.
You can tell. It shows. It feels good again, doesn't it?
It does. Right? It does. I'm enjoying it. And on a Ventum.
And doing it with your son, which is a cool thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I can only go with my son on his easy rides and only in his warm up. Then after
and then he's gone.
10, 15K, I say, you know what, just go.
That's awesome. Today's question is, what was the name of the first pro team Lance and George joined? They didn't join at the same time, but the first pro team they joined. Okay. Send your answer to ventumracing.com/themove. Okay. I don't have any questions for you today. Sorry, Johan, but people can send specific ones in for you. You can send it to themove@wedo.team. And check out Outcomes. Same audio feed as The Move. If you want to hear Johan and Spencer break down, and I can't wait to listen to it today, your more elaborate thoughts on this time trial for tomorrow and those top 4 and a couple of specialists. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you, Johan. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Speak tomorrow.